Good morning. This is a little room. I want to say 4 by 4 meters, not massive. And it's what we called the editing suite in Studio C. And I want to show you how I turned this room from a place that was meant to be some video editing extra tasks or just an extra room that we had into my main workspace. And why I did it and what helped me. This is all going to be about the audio interface that really changed it, which is why I want to thank Universal Audio for helping me out there. Okay, so this is now where I do probably about 90% of my work. This, as many of you know, is my studio. There's Bagheera. Hey, Bagheera. It's a bigger room. It's a nice room, but it's a room that I've been working in for over 10 years, and it's gotten a little bit boring to be in here. The windows go into the garden. I can't see what's happening on the street. I might miss a delivery. I like the idea of working in the smaller room also because these things right there, they are heaters, and we've got 4 of them in here, infrared heaters. In the other room, I got 1. So working in a small room through the winter makes a lot of sense. In the summer, there's an air conditioner over there. Air conditioning a smaller room, huge difference in electricity expenses. But that's really not the reason. I just wanted to get out of this room for a bit, right? So in this room, obviously we got great audio. The ceiling is treated with non-reflective stuff. The back wall is that stuff. It's all perfectly treated. It's a great room. In here, my main audio interfaces is the Apollo X8. I've got an Apollo 8 if I need more inputs. And there's a trusty X4 that you've seen in hundreds of videos. You know, cables right there on the table. And if I needed to go into the XLRs, I have a patch bay here with XLR, which is a little bit easier than fiddling around on the desk. And the main computer in this room is a fully loaded M2 Ultra Mac. So it's in next door right there through the cables. There's 150 terabyte of storage. We've got the big iLouds here from IK Multimedia. This is a nice place. So why would I leave all of this and spend most of my days now in a small room? Well, again, electricity costs are one thing, but also I've been in this room for so long, and this is what I have, a little window, don't really see much, and I like the idea of being a little bit more of people's lives, I guess. There's Bunny. Hey, Bunny. So this is the front of the house, and seeing the street from the room is kind of nice. So here we are in the office, and there are a couple of things that I did to make this a more workable space. So one big thing to make it a room that I can spend the whole day in was the chair, not by Universal Audio, but this people have noticed this in videos. This Herman Miller is a great chair, just like in the other studio I've got. An Aeron really makes sense to me to have a very good chair. A coffee maker is very important in the kitchen here. But the thing that I had in this studio to begin with was this. The Vault 476p. This is a good interface, right? It's got 4 inputs. Each of them can have a 1176 compressor assigned with a preset for vocal, guitar, or fast. Not too much stuff. Each one can have an instrument in out, 48 volt, 2 headphone outs. But my big issue was the direct monitoring is very limited. So if I wanted to listen to channel 1, let's say I'm recording a bass, I was monitoring in 1 and 2, but that meant that the bass was only on the left side. And that's an issue for me. it just wasn't as full. Having a bass or a guitar on one side was problematic. And there is no software for this. So there's no software console. You plug this in on the Mac, it immediately works. And there is no software console where you can have virtual tracks, plugins, or assign things, or say, I want to now monitor this on this side. It doesn't do any of that. It just, you plug it in, the ins and outs are there. The one is going to be on the left, that's going to be on the right, that's going to be on the left, that's going to be on the right. And that's an issue. I just wasn't gelling with it. This is a good beginner starter interface if you need 4 inputs, but it's going to, well, present a wall if you are used to something more advanced and if you want to do professional work. So I asked Universal Audio if we could strike a deal. And I now also have an X4 in here, but that's the Gen 2. So let's take it out of the box.
Apollo in the box, it's a sound gold mine. Unison whispers make the stars align. 4 inputs glowing like a neon sign. High Z roaring, this world is mine. Calibration tuned and set just right. Auto level cut through the night. Plugins dancing in a technicolor spree. The sound I make sets my spirit free. Apollo in the box, it's a sound gold mine. Unison whispers make the stars align.
So in this room, again, it is video/audio. I don't have the Big Mac. Oh, Big Mac, McDonald's. I have the Mini Pro with an M4, and it does 98% of the job that the very, very expensive big one does in the other studio. I'm super happy with it. I had to put some Thunderbolt expansions on it, and there's more stuff under the table that is all connected to it. Oh, I need to fix that. Oh. I was stupid enough to write without the 10G network, so I needed this Thunderbolt 10 gigabit expander from OWC. Thank you, OWC. The Marshall speaker is for the TV, where I usually watch very, very horrible reality TV to distract me from my work. I chose to go with the KSDs, which are absolutely phenomenal speakers. But in this room, what I didn't understand is they did sound pretty horrible, very bassy. You can see this room is not treated. It's treated with some stuff from Silenti, some felt stuff on the wall, yes, but it's not a great sounding room. And that is where this thing made this room usable. Okay, so we're going to talk about that in a second, because this has room calibration from Sonarworks built in. So sitting in this position right here, what I found out is that speaker, just because of the placement of where it is, was 5 dB louder. So my vocals were here. Not good. Too much bass, all that stuff. And we fixed that, and this room became amazing. We'll talk about that in a sec. Let's talk about how I use the room and what I got in here to make it work as my main workspace. The X4 is connected. All 4 inputs are used, except if I need to use bass or whatever, I plug into the front. We're going to talk about recording bass and other things in a second. But so that I don't have to crawl behind it, XLR inputs 1 and 2. It's got 4 XLR inputs, main out, and actually 4 individual outs, which is great. So I can assign this to something if I want to record on an external recorder for video reasons. So I don't have to crawl behind it. I also have an XLR patch bay here. I can only recommend that. This is from Millennium, from Thomann. So I can just plug in right here. And then I'm in 1 and 2. I just recorded a pedal on the table that has XLR outs. And you can see I've got a hole here, plug in the pedal, and I'm ready to go. And then I'm already in the interface. I don't have to crawl behind it and move the interface around. 3 and 4 are coming analog from the Axe-Fx. So the Axe-Fx is a hub for all guitar stuff. So for example, in stereo in 3 and stereo out 3, I can have stereo effects. So if I want to test stereo effects, put them on the table right here. And there are the cables. I plug it in, and then with a virtual amp or an actual amp, I can wire in a stereo effect in the Axe-Fx. I go into the software, patch it in, but the cables are already on the table here. And very quickly, I have a stereo effect wired into what I need to do. And it ends up on 3 and 4 on my Apollo. Then, if I want to use the Zuta actual tube amp, well, all I do is turn that on. That's already wired into input 2 of the Axe-Fx. I go into my Zuta preset, and then I've got all the effects and whatever I want and gating. So I just turn this LA25 25 watt amp on. It's got an internal load, and it goes DI into the Axe-Fx from where it goes into the Apollo. Or I have an amp like this Tone King, and I run that into a load box, right? There's one somewhere. That goes with an XLR cable around the desk into, yet again, the Fractal, where I can apply IRs or effects or whatever, and that again goes into the Apollo. So this is my hub for all guitar stuff, and that allows me to do many, many things very efficiently because it has so many ins and outs, which is why I don't necessarily need all the ins and outs here. What I have here is absolutely sufficient. When I'm recording bass, all I do is plug this in. Channel 1 automatically turns to the high Z input. Then we've got the guitar cable on the floor. I plug in a bass. We got a session here. I call up this MPEG SVT. And Bob's your uncle, I play bass through an SVT. That is a huge, huge benefit. And this is how I work. You might do a million other things with it. There are over 100 and something plugins. But let me talk about the built-in calibration. So you have to buy this extra. You have to buy the license extra. But you can see right there, it is on. So I call this up, and this is the correction that it applies. Now, how did I get that? Well, you're running the SonarWorks calibration software. You need the SonarWorks microphone, which has a serial number which SonarWorks recognizes. And then you're going to do the dance that you're going to see now. I was blown away by how massively different the two speakers were, just because of their position in the room. 5 dB difference. Frequency-wise, big differences. But once I turned on that SonarWorks, it's just on in my interface now. It's just always applying it to the speakers. And they're great speakers, but they couldn't fix the room. my mixes got so much clearer. The bass was still there. Usually, when there's calibration applied, all of a sudden you feel like, oh, there's not enough bass. No, it was actually more powerful because it took some of the low mids out and made the actual bass more apparent. And the vocals were there. Everything was clear. I could hear the mixes, and it turned. I'm not shitting you. This is not a stupid promo video. It turned this room into a room that I take absolutely seriously. Bunny wants something. Can I help you? Yes? I have a view now. I mean, it's not an amazing view, it's my little town. And that's where I grew up. So I'm looking at my parents' house, which my brother now occupies. So it turned this room into an absolutely usable studio. What else can I show you? I'll show you some things that I use in terms of the plugin side of Universal Audio. Just a couple of things. I cannot show you everything. It's completely impossible. They've got amps and compressors and effects and blah, 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 blah. But with the tools I have now, with the X4 and the XFX3 and everything I have in the room here, this turned into... It turned from a little escape for me, where I could do some editing but not actual audio work, to I do my tracks in here now. I work in here. I can work in the other studio if I want to, but I just enjoy this room. And it was made possible, I'm not shitting you, by the addition of one thing, and that's that audio interface. Let me show you a couple of things in the software. So here we are now in Cubase, and this is the console. In the other studio, there's a lot more channels, but I like that there's less here because, easier to see. So let's take a look at the calibration that it did. This is the difference between the two speakers. It even took it down by 7.8 dB just to be safe. And you can do more here. There's bass management and utility. I don't do any of that. I just enable this, and it makes the room usable. You can see this little dip here was probably very important, but definitely the difference in volume, massively important. There's a massive bump here that it has to apply that doesn't apply there. Anyway, 100% worth it. Not the cheapest system in terms of the actual X4, and then also getting Sonarworks. But if you want to do real work, this is how you do it in a small studio. So this is the console, and that's what the 476 is missing. It's missing the ability to say, oh, I want to hear this on the left, right. I want to hear the centered. You can see 3 and 4 is already linked together in stereo for the XFX on line input. It also now, which is really cool, has auto gain. So if you got a vocalist, acoustic guitar, whatever, yesterday I was recording acoustic guitar, you click auto gain, you say start, and then it's waiting for audio. You play something, and it automatically levels it. Which is, if you're an audio engineer, yeah, you can tweak it when the vocalist is on the mic. What if you're the vocalist? Well, what are you going to do? What if your mic is not where your console is, for example? Or if you're a content creator like I am, then having the ability to hit auto gain, go to the acoustic guitar and have it level really is a game changer for people that can't be at their station. This is just for visibility stuff. So sometimes the cues are important to me, sending out of the interface to an external recorder. If I'm doing stuff in Cubase and showing stuff there, I can't record in Cubase, so that's important. Sends are important for having some reverb and stuff, which you can do in here, which of course with the included plugins, and it's just a few, and then of course they want you to spend money on more. Which makes sense because they're absolutely brilliant. I pretty much almost use nothing other than their plugins. And it also enabled me on this computer here not to install all the crap I usually have installed. This is a stripped down machine that now has on it what I actually use. You can have the instant effects only for monitoring And then whatever effects you apply, let's say this flanger, right? What do I mean buy? I don't want to buy it. Screw you. You hear it, but it's not being recorded. I always have it on record. What I'm hearing is being recorded. That's how I roll, right? Plug-in scenes. I don't. Ooh, I can save scenes. I didn't know that. I should probably do that. In the settings, you can determine your sampling rate. Blah 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 blah. Oh, it also has a digital input. It has a light pipe input, which can be SPDIF or 8 channels of ADAT. And in the other studio, I'm actually using it on SPDIF or SPDIF as the input from my aux, and I'm running the aux digitally into this. I don't have an aux in here, even though I have a few, because the Axe-Fx is doing that job. But wiring up the Axe-Fx digitally is a problem because it only does 44.1. And this doesn't, it has a coaxial SPDIF out. I should probably wire that into this and get a coaxial to optical SPDIF converter, because what the X4 can do, it has sample rate conversion. So even though it might be going too far right now, but even though the Axe-Fx only spits out 44, just like the Apollo, just like the aux, by the way, the X4 can fix that. And then you can determine all your ins and outs, even rename them, okay, which is very important. And you have, that's very important to me, virtual tracks. So the SPDIF right here, there's nothing coming in, but here's the sample rate convert, which you could turn on, and then it converts it to the sample rate that you have set up in your X4. I've got a Cubase virtual track, which I'm sending to from Cubase. And I have a Mac virtual track. So those are my Mac sounds. So usually, you like to have the ability with your keyboard to go loud and soft and turn things on and off, right? That's very convenient to me. I need that. But when you're determining your X4 Thunderbolt interface as your main out in the settings, so if you go to audio media settings, so if I said this right here as my main audio interface, it wouldn't work. Then you can't control it from your keyboard. I hate that. So I actually have loopback audio as my main audio interface. And I'll show you how that works. That is absolutely amazing. I had loopback for a while, but now I finally know how that works. I could never figure it out. So that loopback is pumping into this Mac input, which also means any sounds, might it be something from Final Cut, something from Chrome or YouTube, or any program, I can route into this Mac, and then in Cubase, I make that an input, and I can record computer sounds directly into Cubase. So you have a loopback function. So let's go into this for a sec. Here is loopback. And that's really just a virtual routing, right? So right now, Final Cut and Chrome as audio sources are off. I just have this pass-through on, right? And it goes to the loopback channels 1, 2, and they go, as you can see, to Universal Audio Thunderbolt X4, 11 and 12, and those are the virtual channels. And they could go anywhere, but they go to virtual channels. And if Final Cut, for example, does not have its own volume, which is utterly ridiculous. In Final Cut, you got no master volume, which is super annoying. So you turn this on now, and now there is actually a separate volume for Final Cut. Here, there's a separate volume for Chrome. So I could record an output from YouTube if I want to jam to elevated jam tracks. If these are off, all that stuff goes directly here. Loopback together with the UA console gives me complete freedom of routability. So, further, we've got the auto gain we've got the monitor controller. That is the really big new stuff. In addition, on Gen 2, also better converters and blah, blah, blah. They always say better converters. They're probably better, but look, even the 41476, if it didn't have the routing issue, would be an absolutely amazing interface to record any album. Sorry, UA. Your stuff is good enough even on the lowest level. But the Unison stuff is pretty cool because I can call up an amp, and it actually now is being treated like an amp. That is a Unison amp. So it's not in the insert. It actually has impedance and all that completely matched on an analog level as far as I understand. I could also call up an API vision channel strip, which is the main one I use because it's got a very good gate in it. Also compressor, all that stuff. But you would actually record now through the API. Yeah, these cost some money, but the Unison technology is absolutely amazing. So are these all Unison? I can't believe that they all are, but apparently you can play through Marshalls and all that stuff. But since I actually do other stuff here with amps, I rarely use those amps, only if I, for some reason have to. But you wanted to record through Neve 73, there's that preamp, right? Very, very cool. What I do, that sounds funny. So I go to guitar and bass. If I need to record an acoustic guitar and apply what I would call like an IR to it, make it sound as if the piezo actually is a mic'd instrument. So you're plugging in the piezo because you're lazy and don't want to set up a mic. Then you call the Sound Machine Woodworks. And that actually gives you different IRs for acoustic guitars that will sound as if you actually mic'd them with room and more body. It's a very, very good plugin to have if you quickly need to get great acoustic guitar sound. So that's what I use. And then, of course, we're here in Cubase. This is a track I did for the Imperial pedal. There are the stereo tracks that we talked about from the cables that were on the table. There's the bass, right? And all this stuff was done right here in the studio. Let me show you a quick clip of that.
Sweet tubes glowing in the reverb's deep, with tremolo rocking sings me to sleep. Two channels calling, one clean, one wild, makes me feel fearless, makes me feel alive.
Well, let's look at what we got in the mix here. I'm using the UAD X, which is the Spark stuff, because it doesn't use up the processing power on the X4, which has a quad processor in it. So you can't run unlimited plugins running on the UAD platform, but the native plugins, which many of them have already been ported, you can run as many as your computer can handle, and I'm pretty sure that computer can handle a lot. So we've got on the vocals, we've got the Lexicon here. I do use Neutron for some stuff from Isotope. And I mean, honestly, and when it comes to compressors, LA2A, 1176, those are my main ones, right? And then where do we have this? For guitar, Vertigo VST2, which is a Brainworks plugin. You can also get it from Brainworks, but it runs on the UAD. So this is the UAD version. And the Mark EQ4. Again, this is this? No, that's the Plugin Alliance version. Why is this running now? I thought it wasn't running. Okay, well, same thing. You can also get this from Universal Audio. And those two together are my main chain for electric guitars. And actually, for many things. We got an LA2A for the drum room. For the kick, we got an 1176 because, hey, that's what I said. That's what I use. API graphic EQ for the snare. Well, EQ4, but technically that's an EQ who knows what. I just didn't have the license for my EQ4, so I used that. Distressor for the snare, also UAD, or UAX actually, yeah, which is great. Shaker, we got the vision channel. So, I mean, you can see, acoustic guitar, I'm running through the Sound City Studios plugin, which is adding so much reality to acoustic guitars. Because in this case, I can open it because it's frozen. They are actually from Native Instruments. That's a plugin playing by itself. That's crazy. On the bass, LA2A, I really stick with very few things that I know exactly how to operate. And look at that. Graphic EQ from the API. This is how studios were run. They didn't have a billion different things. They had a set of things that they used. So, and the bass is also running through the Lion. Yep. And that's being mixed in a little bit. And then together with that Ampeg, you have a perfect bass sound. Okay. This is how I use that X4 in here. And honestly, I couldn't be happier in this room, which now is a real, just professional workplace for me, thanks to the X4. So that's it from me. Let's show you a couple more clips of stuff that I've done here in the last 5 months to show you that this isn't bullshit. And I've done this stuff really only when I started working with the X4. I think there's 1 or 2 tracks that I did before, but I couldn't trust them. And now I really know I couldn't trust them now that I know how good this room can sound simply because of the SonarWorks sound reference add-on in the Gen 2 versions of the Apollo interfaces. I know what you're going to say. Investing in the Apollo system is not cheap. The interface is up there, okay? But it is a professional tool. It comes with a set of plugins. I recommend at the very beginning, they always give you packages. Go and probably, no shit, probably spend another $1,000 on top of it to get the set of plugins that you need. Actually, maybe not. And maybe yes. Maybe some things that you need in the UAD, maybe like the Ampeg, if it's not included, maybe 1 or 2 unison preamps would be a good idea. But then subscribe to the Spark. That's a subscription-based thing. You can buy them individually in perpetuity, but get the whole set. I think it's $16 or whatever a month, maybe 15. And get the whole suite as a subscription because it gives you natively everything that you need. I don't think you're going to need a lot more plugins from anyone else if you have that stuff. Get the Mark EQ4 for sure. Yeah, it'll cost you. I know. But you'll thank me later. I put links below to all applicable shops. Thank you, UA, for being trusted friends. And we're going to put animals at the end.